and off we go.
And off we go. So, welcome to another episode of We Talk Chelsea, the Chelsea podcast, in which normally features three of us who play Sunday League together. Some of us better than others. And unfortunately, Tom can't be with us today. So, you've unfortunately got me presenting, which is certainly not my forte. So, please bear with me. But I will do my best to make it as formal as possible, as Tom does every week. Now, let's get straight into it. We've had a couple of matches actually since we last spoke this time last week. We started with a friendly, or rather a training test, as I would call it, a bit of a kickabout against Wrexham. We then went on and played Brighton in another match just at the weekend. Tem watched both matches. Tem, I'll start with the Wrexham. How was it? What did you make of it?
Well, I thought as a friendly, obviously, you're just looking for things to sort of improve on from last season. Look at the players, maybe to get a bit of fitness, see who's really up for it, who isn't, and what sort of ideas the new manager's trying to implement. You saw us start with a 4 at the back, which obviously I think that was expected, 4-2-3-1 sort of formation. I was just pleased to see, us actually look like we cared a bit, after the stuff we've seen last season, especially towards the end of last season. Every player just didn't look like they wanted to be there. And it was quite refreshing just to see, the amount of new players we actually have getting a chance. We saw Andrey Santos, Caicedo, Ian Maatsen, even though he was on loan at Burnley, Nicholas Jackson, we saw him play, Malo Gusto. So, it was a mix of experience and maybe some players who didn't quite get the chance to feature in this game. And, all in all, I thought we played fairly decent. I did take away from the first game that we look a lot more sharper on the attack, I'd say. We definitely transitioned from defence to attack very quickly, but I think we've also lost that bit of a controlled possession. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing yet, but it's something I've taken away from the first two games, that we look very much like a team that can hit you on the break and score within maybe 10, 15 seconds, which I thought last season and the season before, we've never really been a counter-attacking team. I don't know if you agree, but...
Do you know what? It's funny you mentioned that, because I have said it a few times, and that's been the biggest problem, is breaking teams down, especially at home. I thought, like, in the last 2 years, it's always been the same method. It's been quite easy to defend against. You basically just play counter attack. If you're unless you're Manchester City or someone, you can basically just play us on the counter. They know that we're just going to build it up slowly, pass it forward, then it goes back. If we can't penetrate you, we'll have a lot of possession, and it won't necessarily concede. But we I can't remember many matches last season, especially, but even the season before, where we scored sort of 3, 4, 5 goals. There's a Norwich match, but Norwich were probably, that was 2 years ago, wasn't it? And they were bottom, weren't they, that season? So
I think so.
I think that was probably the only one that I can think. And I think we do need to just have a complete change. We've got all these young players who are obviously quick. They obviously, people like Mudryk, they're really quick, sharp. Jackson, sharp kind of players who can play, intricate. I mean, we'll go on to the Brighton game later, but watching Mudryk's goal, for example, against Brighton, that was something you couldn't see us ever doing last season. So there's some really good things that look good in those matches in terms of sort of the play and stuff like that. Defensively, I suppose the Wrexham one, we can't complain. But was there any? Did Wrexham have much? I mean, they're obviously a pretty poor team, but did they cause us any problems at all?
To be fair, they gave us quite a good go. I can't remember their striker's name. I think it's Mullin. Mullin is his name. Quite popular striker. Paul Mullin, that's the one. He gave our defence quite a bit of a scare, but to be honest, he was up against Bashir Humphreys and Chalobah, who've never played, with each other before, so it'll be their first time. And you had Jamie coming in goal and Cucurella and Malo Gusto, so a complete back four and keeper that don't have any idea what it's like to play with each other. They've barely seen each other for a week or two, so in that sense, I think we handled it pretty well. I think we've adopted this sort of high line kind of defending as well, which I think under Potter days we did hold quite a high line sometimes, but I thought under Lampard it was a bit mixed. I didn't quite know what we were doing under Lampard, to be honest, whether it was a low block or a mid block or how exactly we defended. But that was something I noticed. We seem to be pressing the ball like 4 or 5 players go at once. Try close down different types of spaces to get control. But like I say, with also that speed of passing, you do risk the chance of losing possession. I think a team like Man City, they have the perfect balance where they know how to slow down a game. They can, they'll maybe do 10, 20 passes, ball you out, and then quick 1-2, they're through on goal and then score or make a good chance. I think we're more like a old school Mourinho. You guys can have the possession, but as soon as we win it back, or sort of like a Jurgen Klopp, the when he first came, we'll sort of, we'll get the ball. We know that we'll score with maybe 3 or 4 chances that we'll have, and it's up to you to come and score against us again, and we'll just keep hitting you on the counter sort of thing. And I think that's something I've enjoyed about how we've looked the first 2 games. But yeah, it really was just a fitness test. I think it was just good to see some young players actually get some minutes to see what they're about, because I think we've all talked about the amount of signings we may still need to have. So having full 23, 24 players we have right now, you can maybe Pochettino has a chance to see who needs a loan still and who maybe he can keep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the Brighton game was probably a bit more of a test, certainly, wasn't it? And it was a bit more of a really saw a little bit more of the sort of more regular first team players and stuff like that. And obviously Jackson had a really good game in that one. And a lot of and Nkunku seems to have really sort of settled in well as well. What did you think of the Brighton game? Because what I looked at when I was, and I've only watched the sort of highlights there, I thought the defending was a bit all over the place, to be honest. I know it's obviously pre-season, but that penalty, I thought that was just reckless as anything. There was I know, and again, we're talking as if these matches are going to be written in the history books in a couple of years' time, and they're obviously not. But I did feel that. But then there was a lot of positives as well. I thought the goals we scored were brilliant. They were again well worked. Like I say, especially the Mudryk goal, the Jackson goal, they're really well worked goals. That, again, last season, just it's day and night, really, isn't it? Since the last season already, we can almost get excited about it. But I do worry about the back. I do worry about Silva. Is Silva going to necessarily play every match this season? And I don't know. And do we have the centre back cover there? Even though I almost thought we definitely would. But what do you reckon about the Brighton match, and what have you sort of learned from that?
Kind of again, it's the same theme I think I learned from last game. I think this one showed us more of a test of how we look against Premier League opposition, in terms of how we fare up against a team with good possession. I think we're still quite a long way off, which is what I think a lot of Chelsea fans need to temper their expectations, because I see a lot of people floating around, we need to get top 4 this season, top 5, why not with Chelsea FC, and we're big and all this, and I'm like, that doesn't mean you're good enough to get top 4. That doesn't mean anything in today's game. I think what you need in today's game is the structure and repetition, in terms of you need time with your squad to get to where you want to be. we've seen the likes of even Man City when Pep Guardiola first took over, they just about finished fourth. Jurgen Klopp finished eighth, fifth, and whatnot. So it's not a thing of, you bring in a new manager and everything comes to success under 5, 6 months, although that's what we've been used to. I don't think we quite have the players right now to reflect that, where we can just bounce back straight to the top again. And you saw that with the way Brighton controlled possession. They looked much more composed, and just maybe it was half the players were using, and maybe it was part of their experience. But even when they made the changes, they just looked so much better on the ball than we did. And I think that's just down to the manager and the time they've had, and obviously the investment they've done over the years shows you like the actual build process of, this is how you build a football team and how you can sustain success. And it's something I think we aspire to do. And it's, over the last years, we've sort of gone into one way of thinking and then 6 months reverted away and thought, oh no, let's change all this, get someone else in, or let's do something different. But going back to the Brighton review anyway, I think they definitely showed us that we still have a long way to go, especially in terms of just controlling a game and slowing down the game. Because I don't know if you saw too many of the highlights, but our midfielders, especially like Gallagher, Chukwuemeka sometimes, Sterling, Chilwell, just very uncomfortable on the ball. Very, very uncomfortable on the ball. And, against good Premier League opposition, which there is a lot nowadays, you will get found out with silly mistakes like that. But again, this is the time for pre-season to iron those deficiencies out. You have these games to sort of learn and understanding with your partners, and get the rust out of you basically. And in terms of us going forward, we looked quite good. Levi Colwill, I was impressed with his passing. I still think he needs to fix up a bit with his tackling. It's a bit erratic at times. I think he's just trying so hard to impress. I don't know if you saw in the Euro finals in the under-21s where he made a silly tackle in the last minute. Same thing this time. I think he just needs to control himself of when he sort of goes in with that sort of lunge, because nowadays in the box, if you do that, it's straight away a penalty. Thiago Silva looked decent, but again, if we're going to play a high line, is he going to really cope? Malo Gusto looked quite good. Mitoma gave him a very good game, to be honest. Chilwell, very, very good going forward. Much to be desired about defensively. Who else had a really good game? Ian Maatsen, quite invisible. Yeah, Nicholas Jackson, when he came on second half, it just changed the game. But again, I think that red card really changed the game, because we didn't look like scoring until that red card happened. And then Nicholas Jackson came on. Mudryk came on as well, I think, just before Jackson did. And obviously scored a fantastic goal, something we really haven't seen of Mudryk. And I think we need to see more of that going along forward. And, as soon as Jackson scored, Mudryk scored, he straight away went over to Jackson and started talking to him. So I think it's sort of like he finally realizes, okay, this is a striker I can feed off. This is someone who's going to maybe get, like the old Drogba Lampard thing, you understand what I'm going to do before I do it, sort of thing.
Yeah, but that link-up combination for that goal was that was what was brilliant about it. And it's funny because last season, I mean, if you look at Mudryk, he's obviously relies quite a lot on his pace. That's obviously his biggest attribute. Havertz is the complete opposite. I mean, if you look in terms of what a link-up kind of guy, he's so like. He's so sort of slow and jaded, isn't he? And I suppose that's probably why it just never worked out for Mudryk, because he couldn't quite work out. I mean, his best game for Chelsea, Mudryk, was his debut when he came on against Liverpool. But if you look at what he actually did in that game, he did it all by himself. There was nothing that Havertz did to help him. Havertz was playing, I think, but there was nothing that in fact, I'm pretty sure he he was actually the reason that he didn't score because of the link up in the run that he did because he did one fantastic run into the box. And it was that link up that Havertz did that kind of slowed him down and actually got him in a bit of an awkward position. So it makes total sense. And this Jackson guy is pretty, he seems pretty mobile. If you like, it seems like he's obviously quick and he's mobile. He's quite agile, and I suppose that's a good thing. Whether I saw some comment from Pochettino after the game saying that he doesn't know whether he doesn't think Jackson will necessarily take to the Premier League as quickly, but I'm not sure what that's based on or whether he's just trying to sort of not put the pressure, because obviously he's done the first 2 games done so well. Obviously, if he carries on the pre-season like this, he's got to start against Liverpool, hasn't he? I'm guessing.
Yeah,
he's going to have to. We haven't got anyone else anyway, but I suppose it's like it's a bit like maybe he just wants to cool the pressure on him. He's obviously young, isn't he, and stuff. So what you made of those comments?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's sort of just tampering the expectations. Who knows? Maybe the club have told him we're still looking for another striker. Who knows at this point? Or maybe Nkunku's his number 1 choice, so he's trying not to get the media pressure on him too much. So I think it could be a combination of all those things combined. But so far from what we've seen, he looks more of a complete striker than what we've had in the last 2 years. He's mobile, he's quick, he's agile, he can link up play, and he seems quite clinical. And I think that was something I saw from last season of his stats. He doesn't take too many shots, but when he does, he usually scores. So his conversion rate is quite good.
The one thing I go back to though is that he failed a medical somewhere. Was it Bournemouth?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, does that mean he's injury prone in some way or something? I mean, and this is what we don't know. Obviously, this guy. I don't think anybody really. He wasn't really on the radar, if you like, at the beginning of the summer, and then we suddenly went and bought him under the radar, which is something we don't normally do. Turned into it seems like he's pretty good, but then at the same time, you sort of don't really know enough about him. But he did fail that medical against Bournemouth, and obviously if we're going to be relying on one striker, I think we need at least one more, if not 2. And obviously Broja, he's quite injury prone himself, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's another one, because he's been left at Cobham, hasn't he? So he didn't travel with the pre-season squad. So who knows what's going on there? I think maybe the club has thought, or Pochettino has thought, he's not quite fit enough. He needs to maybe go on loan or get some minutes elsewhere and come back because he's just fresh off an ACL injury. So yeah, he's probably not going to be as sharp as the other 23 or 24 players who ever went, and yet to see, because Nkunku was playing up front actually, and he looked quite decent. He didn't get a lot of service, but again, like when you saw him on the ball, you thought, yeah, he's the real deal. Like he could do something, and one thing I really like about him, he's a real clever finisher. Like he I don't know if you saw his goal. Like not many players would do that, and I went back and watched some of his Leipzig goals as well. He's just they're not mainly the conventional lash it as hard as you can, but he sort of places it, knows where the keeper may not get to, and sometimes you need that. We've seen it so many times with Havertz where he tries to maybe place the ball a bit too much, or maybe you go the Mount or Kovacic style where they lash completely through the ball and put it 20 yards over the bar. So it's good to see someone who's a bit of composure in front of goal, because that's something I think would have helped us massively last season.
Yeah. What do you think, based upon those 2 games, and obviously the starting 11 against Liverpool is so far away that it's still a bit of an unknown. But what do you think we need in terms of for the rest of the transfer window? I know obviously a lot will depend on who we still sell, but in terms of what quality player we would need, what do you think on that?
I would say we still maybe need another centre back. I noticed defensively, obviously we need a defensive midfielder as well, but we'll see what the Caicedo. We'll talk about the Caicedo thing in a bit, but defensively, definitely we look a bit inexperienced, and even the goalkeeper, I don't think he commands his box enough. I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, don't blame Kepa for any of the goals or whatnot," but just looking forward to the rest of the season, is he someone you can really rely on?
No, and he never has been for me. I've said it all along is that we need, we need a first choice top keeper, or at least if we're going to have one more season of Kepa, just because there's nobody like that on the market or they're being snapped up, we need just an experienced guy there as a backup. Really, like a Mark Schwarzer, or like we used to. You just have one of these guys who you can just come on and rely on. Because Kepa's not, he does get the occasional injury as well. He's not like he's not unknown to get the odd injury here and there. And look, keepers do just happen to just get injured. It happens. Petr Cech was very rarely got injured, and then he got that awful injury, that head injury. When he was playing for us. So and that took him out for God knows how long. Must have been 6 months. It must have been 6 months. And then obviously it was a massive unknown whether he would come back the same player. And so that was certainly. I think goalkeeper, obviously defensive midfield. That Caicedo, I think we'll talk about that later, but I think that looks like it's dragging on. And I still think we need a striker. I mean, we have been saying this the whole window is what we need is a goalkeeper, and I say it every week: which one's the goalkeeper, which one's the midfielder, and which one's the striker. But we keep getting linked with, and I don't know if you know, I was reading one yesterday, and I don't know how much there is on that. Is that the Crystal Palace player that we put a bid in for?
Olise,
yeah, and he's a cracking player. But then he plays. Is he left wing? He plays
right wing. So
right wing.
We've already got
enough of them. Just seems a bit pointless. And he's a great player, but we've got Sterling, we've got
Mudryk,
we've got Mudryk,
we've got Angelo now.
Yeah, plenty of depth in those positions. So I still think it's a striker. Whether it's a backup for Jackson or whether it's I think that maybe Jackson. I think maybe that's why they're waiting to see on Jackson. But so far, he's been really, really impressive. So maybe just a sort of backup for Jackson. And then we've got a defensive midfielder, hopefully Caicedo, and then a goalkeeper, probably realistically a reserve goalkeeper. And I think on that we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay with that. I think everywhere else, positions now like Reece James. We've got the backup and stuff like that now, which is a lot better. But like moving on to some more news this week. So Conor Gallagher seems sort of today, wasn't it? Was it today or yesterday? The news broke. Conor Gallagher's probably going to be on his way out. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, now see, yesterday when I watched the Brighton game, he actually looked very effective in the second half. He to be honest, I think he was getting quite a lot of slack on social media from what I saw, but I didn't quite understand it. I thought he really did put a shift out there, and you saw sort of what the hallmarks of a Pochettino player could look like in Conor Gallagher. He was hungry. Although he didn't get to every single 50-50, you could see he definitely put a few of the Brighton players off going to challenge him in terms of when they're on the ball. When he was on the ball, maybe they did, sort of hunt him down a bit because he does look a bit uncomfortable on the ball. But in terms of being a squad player, he is more than enough of what we need, I think. I think a lot of people would just want to see new, fresh, young players, shiny new toys. But he understands what it means to play for Chelsea. He wants to be here at the end of the day. And if he's going to accept that he may not start every game, but he's going to give it his all, why not keep him in the squad? You need those type of players around. How many? Look at Arsenal, for example. Let me give you an example of Granit Xhaka. For years and years, how many people are saying he's terrible, he's awful. Jordan Henderson at Liverpool, many years people saying he's awful, he's terrible. But these players actually wanted to be there. They cared about the club. And in the end, sometimes that shines through. And I think he's one of those players, again, like he's a bit of an unsung hero. I remember the old days of Mikel when he used to get hounded,
Yeah, he did.
absolutely hounded. Like even including me, I sometimes used to get frustrated. I was like, "What? Why are you slowing the game down?" But as you got older, you start to realize and appreciate actually what role he did for the team, and these
Yeah,
players are,
yeah, and he does. He is a bit of he does run around, like a bit of a headless chicken most of the
mm,
time. He lunges in and he makes quite a lot of mistakes and things like that. But I suppose it's like you say, what does he? He's bringing something to the team to take pressure away from other people. He's forcing other teams to move the ball quicker and therefore make mistakes and so on. So there is a lot of stuff that he does, and also I think he's very good to have in the dressing room. I think it's a funny one with him because for the England national team, Gareth Southgate took him to the World Cup, didn't he? To the World Cup in
yeah,
Qatar, and that was a bit of a shock move, wasn't it? And I don't think he ever played in the whole tournament, but it was just the fact that he's there, he trains well from by all accounts, he tries hard. Um, and sometimes you just need that, where you've got some players that don't necessarily train well. They just train a little bit better with someone next to them. It's a bit like, I don't know, if you work in a shop or something and everybody else is working really hard stacking shelves, you're not just going to
yeah,
stand on the till. You'll
yeah,
just do a little bit to help, because you just feel obliged to. So I suppose to put it into an analogy, that's probably how it would look.
mm.
Where do you reckon if he does go? Do you know what the reason is? Like, what is it? Is it Pochettino doesn't want him, or is it more of is it something to do with his contract length? Because I didn't really read into
Yeah.
it too
So,
much.
so from what I've understood, is that Pochettino actually does quite like him, and he does see himself. Sorry, Pochettino sees him as quite a useful player, but the club are open to selling him. I don't know if it's to raise funds, but I know that he's sort of accepted that he's not going to be a mainstay in the team, as in like he's not an untouchable in this team. So from what the standard of reporting is that he's come to terms with realizing the fact that if a good offer came in for him, which there are suitable offers, you know, he'd be up for sale. And I think he pretty much agrees that if another club wants me and values me, then I'll go up and move. And which is a shame because I think we talked about this. How many Cobham players are left there? I think we've cleared pretty much every single player out apart from James and Chalobah.
Chalobah, yeah, and
Yeah.
Matson. But again, Matson, I was reading a few days ago that he might go again. He might be off to Burnley. So
Mm.
it's he's definitely not necessarily staying. And Chalobah, who was another one who they were saying could be. I mean, I think it looks like he's probably going to get another season. Just to, or hopefully maybe more. If he improves, but it doesn't look like there's doesn't look like there's anyone too interested or too close to a deal or whatever there. And plus, we'd probably have to replace him in some way.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, we'd need a centre back anyway. So
Mm.
what's the point? But yeah, with Gallagher, it's a funny one because I do wonder where he'd go because I thought in January he was very close to going,
Mm.
and I remember was it Newcastle wanted him, but then Chelsea wouldn't sell him to Newcastle because it was seen as a rival, even though we were very far behind them at the time. But obviously we believed at the time we could still get Champions League football with our massive spend in January. But the other one was I think it was Everton, wasn't it? I think Everton wanted him because I think
Yeah.
Everton wanted him, but that never seemed to go through either. So
Mm.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't get the impression Everton are in for him or anything like that. I think they wouldn't necessarily take him. And then, but I've heard Tottenham want him. Is that right?
Yeah. I've heard Tottenham and Palace as well, which obviously he knows Palace very well. So
Yeah.
I think that straight away that's an easy sort of sell to him. But in terms of Spurs, I've not really heard too much about it. I just think for his development, it's probably better that he goes to somewhere like Palace where he's guaranteed to start because I'm not quite sure where he fits in at Spurs. Maybe they find a way to integrate him in, but I'm pretty sure Højbjerg and Dyer is pretty much their midfield, and then Son, whoever else up front, Kane. But then again, he might leave, so I don't know. You'd have to weigh up his options and see where he fancies a move.
Yeah, yeah. I'd rather he went to Palace. I mean, I don't think Palace are much of a threat, although they were our bitter rivals last season at the in the middle of the Premier League. So yeah, that's where that one's going. But yeah, and then obviously the ongoing Caicedo drama that seems to now be it really is it's Enzo Fernandez Part 2. I think now it's a game of poker, and it's we're basically saying, look, we're not going to pay 100 million. Brighton are saying, well, we're not going to sell him to you for anything less, even though Caicedo definitely wants to come. Caicedo it's obvious that he's going to be flocking, to us, excuse the pun, but it just seems to be the price and how long this game of poker goes on. Because I've heard there's you see, if you read the papers as I do, you'll see every day we're linked with another midfielder and another midfielder and another midfielder, and I think that's all a bit of gamesmanship by the Chelsea, whoever's doing the transfers at Chelsea, because they're going, well, let's just leak an article to some newspaper about that will make Brighton maybe think twice. We really want this guy. We obviously want this guy before the start of the season. The start of the season's in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's not far away now. It's really close. He's never going to have played with any of these players before. 3 points is 3 points. It's not worth waiting till the end of the window and things like that. How do you read it? What do you make of that?
I think right now, from what it sounds like from the reports, it's got to be an ultimatum. It's got to be done within the next week because, like you say, the season starts soon. Obviously Pochettino wants to have a look at him. How best? Does he need to be in a 2? Does he need to be in a 3? What's the best formation to get the best out of him? Does he complement Enzo? Does he not? Because I think that's the one thing that a lot of fans are looking forward to seeing, Caicedo more of the battler and Enzo more of the spray passer. Release Enzo a bit and get him further up the field so Caicedo can do a bit more sitting or maybe ball hunting, and that sort of thing. You need time sometimes. Sometimes you need time to just work each other out and see how you both will fit in the same team. I mean, some great players learn to play together, but sometimes they don't. You see we saw it with Lampard and Gerrard where they just couldn't play together. Sometimes you saw it with great players just link up straight away, like Mudryk and Jackson did. So it's best that he learns how Chelsea play and how it's different to Brighton and how he's going to fit in and how we get the best out of him as well. So do I think we're going to pay the money? Probably not, just because of how long it's gone on. I don't think we'll actually get him.
You don't think we'll get him at all?
No, I don't.
You think Brighton will hold firm, but I think if he there's no one else is there who's going to buy him. He's not going to. Surely, is he?
Yeah,
that's
not the problem.
And he didn't. Did he play on Saturday? He didn't play on Saturday, did he?
No. He was in training today though. That's
he's in training.
Yeah, but apparently he's told his agent that he's unhappy with the move. But I think it's got to be a thing now where he's got to push the club and say sort of either handing in a transfer request or something. But then again, he signed a new deal, so the club have verbally promised him a move. It sort of reminds me of like the Courtois situation a few years ago, where apparently Marina and him had agreed he would leave in the summer, and ultimately Marina wasn't accepting Real Madrid's bids, and then all of a sudden Courtois goes AWOL, and then he's sold to Real Madrid. I think that was halfway through the summer, actually. I think that was in August, end of August, and then we end up buying Kepa in the last week or two of the window for 70 million because we panicked at that point. So hopefully something like that doesn't happen in terms of we do it last minute, because we're just stalling and waiting upon the player to actually do the move. It's better we do our business early so we can focus maybe on other targets or other
Yeah.
positions we may need.
Well, I was saying that a reserve striker and a reserve goalkeeper, which is probably what it's going to be, you can get those at the end of the window. It really doesn't. There's no rush, really. You can find those. They're everywhere, basically. You can probably find free agents that are available at that time of the window that would probably do a job, especially like with the goalkeeper. Like just get some sort of experienced goalkeeper. But it just seems to me that this one's crucial. This is a first team definite starter. It's a big money transfer. It's a huge position. It's probably almost the most important position in the whole 11. If you get a good one, obviously, and Caicedo seems to be of that ilk. It's a really important position in the team, and obviously, like you say, what it can bring to the rest of the team, and the difference that it can make if you get a good one, and if you at the moment we haven't got one, so we need one. So it just seems I don't understand why these things drag on so much. It doesn't seem that difficult. It's almost like it feels like something that's inevitably going to happen. Can they not just sit around the table and just thrash it out for an afternoon and just get it over the line? It really doesn't seem that difficult. But I suppose it's a negotiation thing. There's time as part of negotiation, isn't it? And they just think if they can nick an extra couple of million off Chelsea, then they do good business. And Brighton are like that. They are run very astutely, aren't they? And but I suppose they also need to look. They're probably looking for a replacement themselves. So they're probably thinking, well, how much have we got to play with, and B, who's available and at what price, and all that sort of stuff. So,
and you're right with that. The knock-on effects, once Caicedo is bought, does that mean now we get rid of a young midfielder? So now he's got to look for a loan club. And has that loan club already now got players, halfway through August? Now they're not going to get many minutes of that club, or they've got to go somewhere else because the original club that wanted them is no longer available, not looking for that position anymore. So that has a knock-on effect. If Caicedo comes in right away now, maybe Caicedo or Santos or whoever gets a loan move to, let's just say, Burnley or something, and is told, you're going to get this many minutes. Burnley might not wait till mid-August or end of August to get a midfielder in. They might just think, oh, well, we'll go, shop in France or, I don't know, Belgium or something and get someone in. And then Caicedo or whoever has to go on maybe to a championship club or, maybe abroad, and it's not the right move for him. I mean, how many players we've seen who've made silly loan moves, like Ampadu? He had a loan to Leipzig, and then all of a sudden he's going to relegation fodder in Serie A. You know what I mean? Like, these sort of things do have a knock-on effect when you keep players till like near deadline day. They don't get quite the desired move they want, or because, like I say, you don't get your business done early, it sort of hinders other people's career progression as well. And because we're stockpiling a lot of young talent, I think it's crucial that we do have a plan for them, not to stockpile them and then think of a plan when they're already here. It's more like when we're signing them, we need to know they're going to this club, or have a plan for them straight away, rather than thinking on the spot as halfway down the season or halfway down the transfer window that I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do know. Yeah, but no, and it's it does bug me, about this, and what, because I thought what the hold up was the like the Mount and Havertz money, and I thought that might have just been especially the Mount one. Now that's gone through, and we've got well over 100 million for those two. You think, but then I suppose that's probably why Brighton now are digging their heels in because they know we've got the money, and this is the problem. It's like it is just it's a game, it's a game of Monopoly, isn't it? Really, and it's but you can see what everyone's got. They all know it's not, we know, so they know they're not stupid, and they know how much money we've got to spend, basically, or how much money we've received at least. And obviously we know how much we want to spend out of that money received. But this is the thing with the money received. It's a lot of it can't all go on Caicedo, because imbalanced up to that point that some of it has to go towards FFP, and then so it's like it's a bit of a game, I suppose, and only they know. And I think that's why I don't think we'll see a number one goalkeeper and a world class £100 million striker because for that reason. I just don't think we got that much money in to warrant that. I think some of it did have to balance the books and everything else. So.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's like a game of blackjack. We've literally got our hand out and shown the dealer. Last season, we got Graham Potter, took him out of his contract, one of the most expensive managers of all time. You know, then we go and sign Cucurella for 65 million. So Brighton know, you know, if we want a player, we'll go in hard for him. So now they're thinking, well, you guys have spent 65 million, you spent 40 million or whatever it was on Graham Potter and gave him this lucrative contract and all this, you know. So, and you sold X amount of players now, and you're still trying to sell the likes of Lukaku, Hudson-Odoi, all of that. I'm sure we'll talk about as well. But, you know, what are you? How far are you willing to go for Caicedo?
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping this time next week they'll have moved on, because it just seems like every week we have the same conversation almost, and it doesn't seem to move too much. But the other news that seems to be popping up is Lukaku. I was reading, so he's come back in training this week? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or last week, end of last week. He's at Cobham, yeah. So he's they're training, but I've heard that the club are having meetings with him all the time, and they're a bit annoyed with him that he's refusing to move to Saudi Arabia, which I think is a bit harsh. You can't really blame him. I mean, we blame players for going there because we think that here in Europe we think you've got no aspiration if you go to Saudi Arabia for money, and yet Chelsea are trying to just go, just go Saudi Arabia. Come on, why don't you go? And it's like, look, I know he's not the youngest player, but he's certainly not the oldest player either, and he's still got a few years left at the top level in Europe. You can't blame him for wanting to aspire to play in Europe. I think the only club that are vaguely interested is I'm guessing Inter. I don't even know if they still are. I mean, they're not.
So it was Juventus were interested in him, but I think they're not willing to match the price that we set for him. So again, it is Saudi who are pushing the hardest, but it seems like a reluctance from the player to actually want to go there. I think he still wants to stay in Europe and play for Juventus or Inter Milan. But yeah, from what I read, it doesn't seem like Chelsea want him. He doesn't want Saudi, and maybe the Serie A clubs don't quite want him. So, you know, in a circle, it's sort of like one doesn't want the other.
Yeah, and I think that's one that will almost definitely go at the end of the window. I really do. I think that would be lastminute.com. It'll be someone will just come in at the last minute. Chelsea will just take the money. There's no point in him staying at Chelsea. There really isn't, even until January. He's just going to be, moping around Cobham, basically, just crying all day about how he wants to go, how he wanted to go to Inter and Chelsea wouldn't let him, and just putting everyone off. Basically, he's just going to be around like it's just no point in him staying around. So he's got to go somewhere. Someone's got it, and even if we loan him, can we loan him to Saudi Arabia? Is that possible? I mean, he can see how he likes it, gets a bit of money, and I don't know. Is that even a possibility?
I don't think so. I think from what I read was that the fact that Chelsea want to get him off the books completely, and I think I understand that. I think if you loan him for 1 year, he's then a problem again for you next year, and he was already a problem for us last year. So it's best to sort of just cash in now, whatever you can, sort of thing. When you've put something down and you thought, oh, there's no return in investment, but you still get maybe £33 back or something, and you just think, oh, you might as well just get it back because it's better than nothing at the end of the day. And I think it's sort of one of those things that Chelsea need to really think about now and himself. If Inter don't want me, if Saudi don't want me, I should just maybe up and move.
I don't know. I suppose it's down to him what he wants to do. What do you know? What the numbers are? That is it? Chelsea looking for 40 million? Is that something? That's what
Yeah,
I heard.
about 40 million euro mark. I think it was 40 million euro, 40 million pounds. So not
And
not too
into
expensive.
and into paying what 20? Is that right? I mean,
Yeah, apparently Inter don't want to pay him, don't want to buy him anymore.
I
They
just
were
don't want
annoyed at the fact he was talking to Juventus, but this is reportedly, who knows, maybe that's negotiation tactics from themselves, but from the man Fabrizio, they were very annoyed, and Juventus don't want to buy Lukaku until they sell Vlahovic. So again, it's a bit of a knock-on effect of if one player goes, they sign another player.
What with Vlahovic? How much is he? He's worth about that, isn't he? Or a bit
60
less.
apparently.
60. So
60
can't we
is
just?
still,
We was vaguely linked with him at one point. Why
yeah.
don't we just do a deal with swap deal? You know, £10 million. We need a second striker anyway. Makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah,
Is it? I mean,
I don't know.
maybe I suppose if we just don't want him enough, then there's
Yeah,
no point,
yeah,
is there? But it's I don't know. It just seems fairly obvious. If we want to get rid of that problem, then I suppose we could inherit another problem. We don't
yeah.
necessarily want that, you know. So it's a difficult one. I think the Lukaku problem, it has to get solved in some way or another. But someone's going to have to make some sort of concession, because it's just otherwise it's not going to happen. And it might be Chelsea. It might be that we have to just loan him out. I mean, that's better than nothing. Again, you know, you were saying it's better than nothing. But if no one wants to buy him, or if the person that wants to buy him, Lukaku, doesn't want to play there, then we're going to have to make that concession, basically, aren't we? And we're going to have to send him off into whoever, just on a loan. I mean, there'll be plenty of clubs around Europe that'll take him on a loan basis, I think. Just whether they want to pay his wages, that's the other problem. And it's just it is a huge problem for Lukaku, a huge problem. It's almost a comical purchase. Probably it will go down, and I think we've said it. It has to go down as the worst purchase, not just at Chelsea. I think almost of all time, like worldwide.
Almost.
Well, yeah. Yeah,
I
I
would
couldn't.
say Eden Hazard is up there as well for Real Madrid.
Eden Hazard. Yeah, sorry, Eden Hazard for
Yeah.
Real Madrid. Yeah. But there we go. And then moving on, we've got the Hudson-Odoi situation. We've rejected a £4 million. I mean, it's quite amazing, isn't it? This is another brilliant Chelsea mess up from Fulham. So, and what's the reason for that is that we want to sell him abroad. Is that what it is, or we don't think 4 million is good enough? What's the deal there, Tim?
So what I've read today is that Chelsea are looking for more of an £8 million asking price, and they would ideally rather sell him abroad than to a Premier League club. But when you see those numbers floating around, honestly, I almost, it is shocking, and maybe I should take my words back. Maybe we should have sold him to Bayern for that 70 million or whatever it was, because
I think it's 30 at the time, but it was a lot because he wasn't even he'd never even
he
played in the
hadn't
first
barely
team. I don't
started.
think.
Yeah, barely started any games, and but then again, at the same time, it shows you the drop off, because I was looking at I think the Golden Boy, like the top 20 names in what was it, 2019, 2020, and every single one of them you definitely have heard of. It was like Vinicius Junior, Marcus Rashford. It was like who else was it, like Odegaard, and players right now you'd think Phil Foden, and his Hudson-Odoi's name was it on it, and you just think, like, he was destined for basically high standards and high things, but then he just never lived up to it, and it's just such a shame that he's dropped to this level, where he's just, £4 million, he can't even secure a move, sort of thing, and it's a bit embarrassing. I mean, well, his numbers last season, I think he only scored 1 or 2 goals for Leverkusen.
He didn't play
He made like about 20 appearances. So again, it's something he needs to look at himself and think, how can I get back my career, because it is dwindling down. He probably will never get a game for England now again. He's probably better off switching his allegiances to Ghana and just, being like a Iwobi or someone like that, plays for their home national team, or Zaha did for Ivory Coast. I think Zaha had he used to play for England in the 21s, I'm sure, and then he switched over to Ivory Coast. And more of these players, to be honest, should do that anyway. I think. I know they want to play for the nation they stay in and stuff like that, but sometimes it's down to a player to sort of realize, A, am I good enough? B, am I going to get enough game time? C, have I got too much competition maybe ahead of me? I need to think about myself, making myself on the national stage. And if they do take pride in being multinational, as in like, I'm English and I'm Ghanaian, I'm English and I'm American, or wherever you're from, maybe look at being a hero for another nation that will appreciate you as much as you appreciate them. And, it will help you as well on sort of a world stage, getting recognized by these so-called big clubs. They'll look at your international performances and think, oh, wow, he's performing well for so-and-so, we'll sign him, Yeah. And, yeah, so it's a very odd one. But, again, £4 million is just...
But I see. This is what I don't get is his wages are monstrous as well, because obviously to stop that 30 million, we had to, because I swear he handed a transfer request in at the time where he made it clear that he wanted to go, and then he said, right, well, we said we'll get you a new contract in, and you'll get a bit of first team football, and he started coming in the team then a lot more. I remember at the time you started seeing him a lot more, and I was like, oh, okay. So this kid's, and he looked pretty good. And I was like, yeah, okay. But I'm sure we're paying him silly money. I mean, he's one of the not top earners, but certainly for where he is, he's a top earner. And that didn't happen that long. Yeah, that's a lot of money for him, to be fair.
He was only 18.
Yeah, 18, 19 at the time. Yeah. And so you think, well, of Fulham, and he's obviously, he must have at least 2 years left, because that wasn't that long ago. Although
I think it's a year left now. He's got 1 year left.
Okay, so I think so I suppose we just have to sell him basically. But it could be one. I wish him luck, but it could be one that bites us in the bum if we sell him in the Premier League. So I'm guessing that's why. And I don't know whether he wants to stay in the Premier League anyway. It sounds to me like he. I've watched a few interviews with him in Germany and stuff, and he seems to be quite liking it over there. I don't know, maybe wasn't really successful, but seemed to sort of see the value in playing over there. A lot of players do, a lot of the young players do these days, So So it's done well for Bellingham and Sancho, players like that. So and finally, before we go, we've got another 5 or so minutes. We've got a couple more friendlies coming up. We've got Newcastle and Fulham, which is I think it's Fulham, isn't it, on Monday? These are both in America, I'm guessing, aren't they?
I think both are in America. I think it's part of this Premier League series friendlies thing, whatever we're doing.
Yeah,
not quite sure. There's quite a few clubs involved in this. Yeah.
So I think we've got those two, and then we've got Dortmund at home. But I'm guessing that's at Stamford Bridge, isn't it? I'm guessing.
Yeah, that one's at Stamford Bridge, I'm sure.
Last one at Stamford Bridge. So, so these two coming up. These two will be before we speak next time. What do you want to see? Who do you want to see, and what do you want to see, and what do you think we're going to be getting closer to knowing what a starting 11 actually looks like against Liverpool, which is what everyone really wants to know, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was quite interested in both games in the second half. We seemed to go to a 3 at the back, and I was a bit shocked just to see, but then again, it does make sense with the sort of players we have that we can play with wing backs. We've got Cucurella who could play left centre back, and Cole can play left centre back, Thiago Silva in the middle, and we do have that flexibility to move to a solid 3 at the back. And we sort of adopted like this 3-4-3 diamond where it was like one holding midfielder, a left central midfielder, a right central midfielder, and three attackers and wing backs and wing backs and centre backs with a front three as well. So yeah, I think I would just like to see us more playing a four because that looks like how we naturally start. I would like to see more of I would like to see more of Levi Colwill with Thiago Silva. I'm quite intrigued because the amount of times Chilwell made that run through, it was often Levi Colwill who found him with that pass from left centre back all the way through, straight through to their fullback. So, I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see Mudryk get more of a chance. Actually, I think this could be a big season for him. Although Sterling is mainly playing on the left and he looks best on the left, I would actually like to see more of Mudryk and maybe kind of dislodge Sterling because I'm not a huge fan of him. If a right offer came in for him, I would like to see the club sell him, to be honest. Although that may leave us with a lack of experience, there's something about him I don't quite like. I don't know what it is, but I think he will get us goals, Sterling. But Mudryk, yeah, I'd like to see him get a bit more of a chance. And Nicholas Jackson, I want to see him play a bit more as well. And maybe Nkunku behind the striker.
Yeah. I think that's how it looks to be going, doesn't it? It looks like there's certain players that are emerging as sort of Nkunku, Jackson, certainly Mudryk at least featuring in games a lot more like than he did towards the end of last season.
Reece James.
Well, yeah, I don't know whether he's. I know he's back. I know he's there because I saw that. But what is he actually? I mean, is he fit? Is he match fit? And do we
idea.
And do we really want to risk him again?
Yeah.
I mean, we all know what he can do. We don't need to, I don't know. Like, obviously, we want him to be fit against Liverpool. I suppose that's a game that we really would like to see him in, and I suppose he's got to get some game time under his belt before that match if he is to play. I mean, it's funny the way the fixtures are actually in the Premier League that we've got actually a really easy first sort of 10 games apart from the first one. So we've got to be really kind of peak at the first game, and that's a game that we, historically we do okay in. I mean, we sort of give them a good game, Liverpool, and Liverpool look a bit on the ropes at the moment. They don't seem anywhere near ready because they keep selling players. They've got a massive midfield hole at the moment. They keep selling. They look like they're selling Fabinho and Henderson all in 1 week, and they've obviously the Milner and people like that as well have gone. So they're kind of there for the taking, I think, a little bit. The players at Chelsea, they'll be up. The crowd will be really up for that one. The fans will be up for it and everything like that. But it's funny because we just need to get ready for that one match. It's almost like a cup final, and then after that, the row of fixtures we've got after that are kind of, I can't remember exactly what it is, but I was reading something and it said that they said that us and I think Man City have got the easiest first 10 games or so, or whatever it is.
I hope so.
We've got a really easy start to the season, which is nice, But obviously it's nice and it's not nice because it means that if we don't get it together in those 10 games, then we're on the road. So but that's why I think it's that Liverpool game, it's crucial, So it will be a massive game, that first game of the season, and just because it's Liverpool and it's at home, so it's one where we would like to think we can do something, and So I think we're getting closer. It looks like we're getting closer to knowing what the starting 11 is looking like. It's like every one of these friendlies, although they don't really mean a lot. There's certain players that are coming out of it with looking very rosy, and other ones that are like, Cucurella, for example. I don't think he's going to be necessarily starting against Liverpool. Let's put it that way. I think we all think it's going to be Ben Chilwell. Like some of them are fairly obvious. They pick themselves. So yeah, but that's about it. Is there any other business, Tem, at all?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on what I wanted to see. I think defensively we need to shore up. I'm still not quite convinced we're that team that's going to outscore other teams. So I think defensively we need to be sound, because I think one thing I could take away from last season is we did lose a lot of games due to poor finishing, and I don't think we're miles different. Where now I think we'll win every game because we're way better at finishing. It's just a case of maybe those losses turn into draws. But I still think a lot of last season we didn't. Although we kept the scoreline down, we still did make quite a lot of defensive mistakes, if you may. And the goals we did concede, I don't think there were goals you could say, oh, they were unsavable, or those were
no,
they were bad goals. Some of them were bad goals we conceded. Like you think, oh, you know,
Aston Villa at home.
yeah,
That was tragic. I mean, Leeds away. I was at that one.
You think some of those games, West Ham away, I think it was as well, and Southampton at home, that goal we conceded. I could think of many games where you just think, oh, you know, we go 1-0 up or something, we still maybe concede those goals, but we need to start winning 2 or 3-0, and you know, actually looking solid defensively, and that falls on the keeper to actually make good saves at the same time, like he did at Villa away when we were there. You know, Kepa really did keep us in that match, and that's something you'll need your defense and your goalkeeper to both be in sync with. So yeah, I'd just like to see us shore up defensively, because we don't seem to control games from what I've seen so far. So yeah, just really slow down the tempo. You know, we can turn it on when we want to, but just have a control of the game, I would say. That's my big takeaway from what I want to see going forward.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, thanks very much for everybody who's joined us this evening. Please do click the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks very much to TKS TV as well for streaming this podcast. We Talk Chelsea, and we'll see you next week, same time as always, Monday 9:30. See you there.
Yeah. Peace. And